Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi.
Yeah, so you have the host right now. Bye.
Okay, thank you very much. Tell me how far.
Hello, Suzanne. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Maurice. Thanks for joining.
Hello, good afternoon.
I was calling, but I think you're
Yeah, my phone was on silent.
no
Okay.
problem.
Tell me, is that your voice? That's changed.
Hi, Tizo. Yeah. I'm alone at home, so I've not spoken since morning. I'm just like,
Oh, okay. So
hello,
I'm going
Samuel. Welcome.
to let me see if I can share my
Hi,
screen.
hi everyone. Hi Tolu. Hi Suzanne.
Yeah,
How are
hi.
you doing this?
Doing? Mm, let me see. Can you hear me? People here.
Yes,
Alright. I
yes,
can you see my screen, please?
yes. We can. I
I
can.
can't see my own screen. That's interesting. Oh wow.
Yeah, I can see it. Let me.
Okay. Right, so let's just wait it out. So welcome to today's event. Look at the chat session. I don't know if we have people already on the call. So good afternoon, everyone. Um, for those persons that are joining, let's know where you're joining us from, and then we will just proceed. I, for some reason, can't see my screen. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Okay. Let me send the reminder. Okay, so we thank you for sending the reminder. Please will just continue. It's recorded.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So basically, good afternoon, everyone that is joining us on this call. Let's get to know where you're joining us from. My name is Susan Odere. On me on this call, we have Tomi Lola. We'll just take her out to introduce herself. I have Tomi on this call, and I have Samuel, and then I have Mr. Morris. Tomi, you will just take turn to introduce our guest speaker, and then we'll just talk a bit while we wait for people to join about the importance of why every professional, irrespective of the field you find yourself in, why everyone needs to have a data skill set. I'm seeing Ada joining from Lagos, Nigeria. Tem, I cannot pronounce that name. I do not want to murder the name. Somebody from South Africa. So let's get to meet you. Just if you're joining us, just let us know where you're joining us from. So, Tommy, please, can you briefly introduce our guest and then we will continue while we
Okay.
wait? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Sorry, please just give me a second. I'm trying to pull out something. Sorry, I'm having some.
So we have people from Abeokuta, two persons from Abeokuta, Itunu and Loretta. All right, just if you're joining as we say, let's get to know where you're joining us from. This event is brought to you by Old School Africa. It's a masterclass basically on data and AI course. Basically, we're going to have our hands dirty a little bit. I'll call it. We'll get our hands dirty a bit with data. Working with data set that has been shared so far. So if you have your friends, colleagues, feel free. Christabel. Oh, Christabel. Yeah, I can remember that name from the WhatsApp group. So Christabel is joining from Lagos. Um, so yeah, let's get to know where you're joining us from. We have a partner with us, representing Sterling Bank. Um, Tommy will do
So
well in giving that
to do
um, introduction.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I was just trying to get my network started so there is no interruption.
okay.
Okay. It's a pleasure meeting everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to amazing guest speakers for making out time to be here and to impact knowledge. So we have with us on the call Maurice Igugu. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Sterling Bank, blending 14 years of experience in brand strategy, advertising, product development, digital transformation, and AI driven innovation to redefine modern marketing. He is renowned for leveraging data driven storytelling and growth hacking. He spearheads initiatives that merge purpose led branding with cutting edge technology to elevate consumer engagement. If we can, let's give a round of applause either in the comment section or using the emojis available. Thank you, Maurice, for joining us today. It's an honor, to have you here to speak on data, AI, data driven strategy, and so on and so forth. And also, we have with us on the call Samuel. Samuel is the data developer at Core Technologies. He is a highly motivated data professional driven by growth and equipped with extensive experience in diverse data roles and proficiency in complex data tools. His passion lies in utilizing data to tackle problems and collaborating with teams to deliver valuable outcomes, ultimately creating products that people love. His expertise has resulted in development of remarkable data products, securing an investor for data-led projects in the past, and being awarded Innovation Champion of the Year at Core Technologies, where he currently contributes to digitalization of financial operations across Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. So please familiarize yourself with our instructors, our tutors for the day. You know that you are in great hands. And we also have Susan. Susan Odere is our senior programs manager. And one thing I would like to say about Susan is she is an exceptional teacher, and also an exceptional speaker as well. And she also leads the School of Data at Old School Africa. So you know that you're in great hands. And thank you so much to our speakers, Susan, Samuel, and Maurice, for joining us today. And we hope to have an amazing time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tommy. We're about to start. Okay. So I will just say that I'm reading the chat now and seeing that we have more persons joining. Hopefully we don't do Nigerian time thing, kind of. But then I want to kickstart this conversation. Everybody has been hearing data, 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 and then Tommy asked the question: why are you taking this course? Why data? Why do you want to learn a skill, a professional skill like we want to learn data analytics, data science, or even data engineering. We have machine engineering too. Um, so my question now, I'm actually going to. Can you hear me, Tommy? Why are you saying something? You're not
Yes, yes.
muted. Okay.
Oh,
So I want to ask a question, and this question I'm going to direct it to both Samuel, and I'm also going to direct it to Maurice. We are going to talk briefly Also, in the comment section, if you're here, please feel free to air your opinion, thoughts, and give your feedback. Why should every professional, whether you are in the tech space or the non-tech space, why should everyone have a data skill? Why is it important to have a data skill? Um, there's a saying I used to tell um my learners at All School Africa, those in School of Data. I'm like, data is the new oil, data is the future. Basically, we are all heading to a point where we are going to um really, what's the word now, depend heavy on AI and data. But I don't want to be the one to kickstart that conversation. So Samuel, let's start with you, Samuel. Why should everyone, or anyone rather, take up a big data, before they used to say become computer learned, right? Why should everybody be data learned or data driven or have a data skill in this dispensation or in this day and age? Samuel, over to you, and then I'll call up on Maurice.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Samuel. Okay, so why should anyone um get a skill in data or be able to utilize data? I think that should also be like asking why should anyone be breathing oxygen, right? Or why should anyone be taking in oxygen, right? Because data basically is lifeblood of every business, right? Now, before we even go and start talking about businesses in our everyday lives, we get to make decisions, right? So why should you make decisions? That's one question. Why should you be able to weigh your options and then be able to come up with a more proper option, right, from what you already have, and then be able to use that to finalize on your decisions or on the things that you want to be able to make impact on. So basically, why should anyone gain a skill in data? Why should anyone be able to understand what data is, what analytics is, and be able to use that for improvement? Now, of course, as humans, we adapt, we are ever evolving species. So why should anyone need data? Basically, the data that you need, right, or that the data that you get helps you in being able to improve on your decision making. It helps you be able to understand whatever challenge that you have, whatever you're facing, and how to be able to come out of it. Now, if, for example, you have a problem, right, you still get to think about it. This is the problem that I have. Now, how do you then understand the problem in depth? You start looking at things. What is the cause of this problem? What are things that I have done wrongly to cause this problem, right? Why is this problem still lingering? How can I be able to solve this problem? Now, for every time that you start digging deep, it means that you're looking into data, you're trying to find answers to those. Now, the same thing also applies to businesses. Why should businesses use data, or why should businesses upskill, right? So the same thing also applies. They're trying to understand certain things and then need to be able to make the right decisions. So basically, getting a skill in data helps you improve on your decision making. It helps you make the right decisions. It also keeps you informed. You're able to say, oh, I have this option, I have this option, I have this third option. Out of these three options, right? Option A seems to be very effective compared to option B or C. So I'm going to work with option A. Now, in other scenarios, option B seems to be more effective, given this factor and this other factor and this other factor, right? So you need to upskill in data. Otherwise, you will not be able to make what we call informed decision. You'll not be able to make a smart or better decision. So basically, getting a skill in data, understanding how data works, understanding how you can be able to extract insights from data would help you become not just a better business person, but a better individual as a whole.
Thank you very much, Samuel. You went spot on. I'm going to give, before I call Maurice to come on board. Something happened recently. I just resumed leave, and then something happened at work, and then I had to make, the general call was make this decision because this thing happened. But then because of data, I was able to segment the, you know how you analyze data, you're not able to segment that. Okay, it affected this set of this set of, how do I call it, data sets was affected, right? This other sets were not affected. Without data, left to everyone without the insight of data, would have just made a very what will I call it? A very generalistic decision, not a segmented decision. So data really do give insight. Like, I have seen how using data, analyzing data can help you make proactive decision. Every business needs data. Every business now thrives on data. Um, Growing up, I used to hear that one of the most expensive commodities, information. I still think information is still one of the most expensive commodity. And how do you get information? It's a buildup of data that you use to get information, right? So I'm going to call on Maurice now to, what's your take? Why should any professional in this day and age need a data skill? Maurice.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this session. Yeah, so I'll just go straight at the question. Everyone is constantly generating data. We're constantly generating data from how you browse, what you look at, the places you go. Every single moment, this conversation is generating data. Every time you open your mouth to speak, you're constantly generating data. And if you look at your business or your career, data is always coming at you. Information is always coming at you. There's a lot of information out there. We live in an information-rich environment, okay? But the fact that you have information and you have all of this data is not going to help you much till you apply data analytics to that information. In other words, if you're able to process the data, if you're able to extract information and insights from the data, and then make informed decisions as a result, then you will be able to stand out and be different from everyone else who's basically just looking at the same data everyone is looking at. Now, I'll give an example. Before I get into that, I look at it as in 3 buckets. You have data and information that has to do with the past, what has happened before. If you're able to analyze that properly, you can detect where errors were made, you can tell where areas where you were successful, and then you can find ways to repeat that success or avoid the errors. Now you have information that's coming at you now, so real-time data. That can help you see trends and patterns and things you need to fix. And things, it helps you iterate. If you're running a marketing campaign, for example, as things are happening, as we say, as they happen, you get to see what's going on and you're able to fix. And then you have predictive, if you like, analysis. In other words, from all of the information I have, how can I possibly see the trends, what's going to happen tomorrow, so that I can, before anyone gets to make that kind of decision, I've made a very informed decision based on past data that helps me stand out. So I look at it in 3 buckets. Now, one of the easiest ways to explain this would be to look at a typical car, okay? You have a lot of information in that car. You're sitting in the car, you're about to start your car. How do I know if I get this car started that it's going to take me from point A to point B? You look at the dashboard. The dashboard is an amalgamation of a lot of data that's going on inside the engine, inside the car, especially if you have a very, electronic car. Now it's going to give you all the information, a tire pressure and all of that. That's what your dashboard does. So just imagine if you didn't have that dashboard, okay, and you start your car and it doesn't start. You have absolutely no clue as to where to start from or where to go to. Is it from the engine? Is it because of my Kickstarter? You have no clue. But if you have if you have a dashboard that shows you, you can tell maybe the car is overheating. That's why it stopped. The engine is stopping. And then you know exactly where to go to. So that's how it is. If you have data and you know how to use it, and you're good with analyzing it, you will have information that your peers won't have, your business competitors won't have, and you'll be able to make decisions that put you above them. You have competitive advantage, basically. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay. So this. Thank you very much. I have one question, and I don't know. I keep asking that question like anywhere I go to. This is I'm not targeting any set of persons. So why do I know this is going to be like an information, but I think I need to carry out a survey and a data. I have had the school of data for over 2 years now, and there's one trend with data professionals, and I'm going to keep asking, why are data professionals on the quiet side? Like, they rarely engage in discussions. They will show up, but they will not engage. They are even on LinkedIn, they are silent. On Twitter, sometimes most are silent, some are not silent. So why do we have this cloak around the data world? They don't, you guys, like data professionals really do not make noise. I know I have some data people in this house, and I know that on our WhatsApp channel we have people on the channel. I'm sure Tolu will be surprised. Why are they not communicating? It is, should I say it is typical? I don't want to use the stereotype. Like, why do you think that the data professional tend to be on the quiet side? There's, it's just a random thought. I want everybody, even on the chat, to communicate, right? Thank you, Maurice, for your insightful insights, right? But then this particular topic, it's a data that it's a data I'm trying to get information on too, just to make things on the lighter note. Tommy, let me ask you this question. Tommy, what was your reaction when you put on the WhatsApp channel and you have people not really responding? What was your first thoughts? What came to your mind first? We are all together. We'll soon go to the very serious part. I'm just trying to make light the situation before we start going to the heavy part. Tell me, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Okay, so once I didn't get the response, I immediately thought of, okay, maybe it's uncharted waters or it's unfamiliar territory, right? And then you mentioned, which I have also noticed because I'm a student at all school, that data students are on the quiet side. But even looking at the data of everyone who registered, hundreds of people who registered for this program, I saw people from across different fields, right, coming to learn data. So I wasn't so sure as to why, you know, maybe the immediate perception wasn't, or the immediate response wasn't there, right? I just think it's people trying to get familiar with, where they are and what they are trying, or and what they are, trying to learn or getting to learn. And I mean, beyond this, masterclass, the community is there, so there would always be interactions. We'll always share more, and I'm sure that in time everybody would open up.
Okay, so let me direct this now to Maurice. Maurice, why are people always quiet?
Well, while I don't think I'll boast, or rather, I won't boast in the sense that I won't say to myself that I'm a data specialist. Okay. I
Okay,
use data every day. But again,
okay.
one thing I know is, here's how I'll put it. Because they let the data do the talking. So
Hmm.
while you have, marketers make a lot of noise, do the presentations, and the data person just sits down and processes all the information, um, and then they can present and they can analyze what's going on and present a position that is data driven. So again, that's just on a lighter note. But the bottom line is, I think they are more reserved because they look more at the numbers. Again, it's not a generalist. Uh, it's not really every single person who does data, therefore, is this way. But I think the profession itself makes you a bit more introspective because you have to analyze a lot of information. You don't have to do a lot of talking. Yeah. So maybe that's the reason. I don't know. As opposed to a salesperson whose job is actually to go out and sell people with their mouth.
Okay.
I completely agree. It makes a whole lot of sense. Now I'm thinking about it because I'm on the other end. I'm in sales and business development, so there's that constant need to just go on and on and on and try to put your point. But then I see how and why data people are actually quiet now.
Okay, Samuel, do you have anything to say? Please, on the chats, I want conversations to take place. Why do you think data people are quiet on the quiet side? Why? I know most of what the people will say regarding when Maurice said, we are always looking at numbers. I've heard it before, right? So more Samuel, your thoughts and opinion. Christabel said, "Abi, they are all introverts. We let data do the talking." Keyword. Thank you,
Okay.
Maurice, for that.
So I think
Okay.
somebody described it better, right? In most cases, most data persons, of course, because you work with data, right, you tend to be more observant, right? So before you get into topics, you want to be sure, this is what I'm going to be putting out, and it's very, very relevant to that particular, maybe there's a topic discussion also, right? So you want to be sure that this actually works out fine. Just like Maurice said, let the data do the talking, right? So most of the data persons would also tell you, in God we trust. Every other person must bring data, right? I know that you might be right in whatever you're saying, but can I see the data? Let me see the data. Let me see the evidences and all of those. So most data people tend to, follow that particular rule. Understand? So before I get to put out any of my opinion, I need to be sure that there's a solid data that's going to be backing it up, right? So you don't end up just being caught up in the loose. So most of the times, I just say most data people tend to be observant. They tend to stay back, observe the whole situation, and then can be able to, analyze whatever is going on, the situation, and then be able to make their informed decisions. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think for the next we're moving to the next segment now. Forget the fact that we're doing talking. We are just trying to build foundations. You need to know there's this book, What's Your Why? Is it Why Act Why? There's this book on why. What's your why? Right? I can't really remember, but something on why. So you need to know your why so that you can get to know your next steps. That will for it's still data. Everybody, like Maury said, we all generate data every blessed day. Yeah, it's what's your why. Thank you very much, Christabel. What's your why? Why are you here? Why are you on this call? Is it because it's free? What exactly is your why? So the reason why we're laying this foundation first and not jumping directly into the practical sessions. We will do practicals. Data set has been shared, but we need to know what your why is, right? You need to build foundation so that you can get your whys straight, and you need to know how important getting the skill is. So the next segment, I'm going to be calling on Maurice. Um, Maurice, you've heard his profile. He's a dynamite in the data field, sort of. Um, Very rich profile. Maurice will, be speaking to us. Maurice, I don't know if you'll be presenting I know you shared something, but I don't know if you'll be sharing from your own end. If I share, I'm not seeing my screen. Tommy, can you help share?
I'll see if I can try
Okay,
from
okay,
here.
that's fine. Okay. All right. So we're calling on Maurice to take up this session, and it's please keep an open mind. Let's feel free to ask questions. It's what's the word now? What's the word I want to use now? It's um and a function of equipping non-tech professionals with the understanding of how data analytics and AI can empower strategic decision making across business functions, business or non-business functions. So basically, that is where it's Maurice. Please, you have the floor. Yeah. Hello, Maurice.
Yep, just give me a few minutes. Let me see if I can share my
Okay.
screen.
Yeah. Thank
Give me a
you.
few minutes. Okay,
So
one
while we're
moment.
waiting, are you ready to go, Maurice?
One more minute. Can you see my screen
Yeah.
now?
Yes, I can see your
What's it that
screen.
you see?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, what's it that you see?
I'm seeing data analytics and AI for strategic decision making, equipping
Okay,
non-technical professionals with
okay,
AI.
awesome.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll just go straight. I will need 15, 20 minutes. Uh, and then I'll let Samuel go into the nitty-gritty practical sessions. Okay, so this is, if you like, I'll call it an appreciation course or an appreciation, just understand what data is, what AI is, maybe not in the deep.
I guess it's network. Okay. Hi, Maurice. I think
Okay, I
network
guess I got
happened.
kicked off.
Yeah.
I got kicked off, I guess.
So sorry.
All right, I'll try again to
Okay.
share. Yeah, okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, good. So it's an appreciation.
Dr. Can you hear
To
him? Uh,
understand relationship between why it's
Maurice,
useful
I
to
think your
make
network is
decisions, how
breaking.
businesses or different uh, industries use it. I would have liked to go into case. Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, I think yes. So do I take off? Let me take off some network. Do I share my screen and then you can, while you present it, and I'll just keep skipping the slides as you mentioned.
Is it breaking a bit? Is it like it's breaking?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
hear
it's
me now?
breaking. We can hear you, but after a while it breaks. So could probably be because you're sharing your screen.
Oh,
So if
okay.
we can help you with that, then
So,
it's
Tommy,
probably
I've shared his slide with you. So you can. Okay.
okay. Let me open it. Yeah.
So, Maurice, you can stop sharing. We're just trying to. Please, guys, we're trying to. What's the word now? Maximize data. Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to open it with Chrome so that I could share my screen here. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tommy.
So I'm about to share now.
Please do.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So hi Maris, is this fine? Are we still on this page?
Yes, yeah. You can move on to the overview.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any way you can
So
make it can you
full
hear me now?
screen. Yes,
Yes, we
yes,
can
I
hear you
can.
now.
Okay, so
Okay, good.
is this better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please. Now that you're sharing, you also are beginning to, your network seems a bit shaky. All right. Uh, please to the next one. All right. So this is an overview of what we'll be looking at. Introduction to data analytics and AI. We'll see business opportunities, and just look at the ethical implications, because every time we talk about data and AI, I think we always need to look at and evaluate some of the ethical implications of, um, if you like, not applying proper ethics to data and AI and what it could cost if we don't. Okay, then we look at some future trends. Yes, next. Next. Next, please.
Okay. So,
Can you still hear me?
yes, I can. Can you hear me? So, after overview, this is the
Can you
next
still hear me,
slide.
please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Susan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Maurice, too.
Okay. Okay. All right. So
So,
again,
this is the next slide.
all right. It's been said data is the new oil. We've heard it again and again. But when you're actually trying to analyze this statement, you will begin to see the actual connections between both. Most people just think on the surface level, when we say data is the new oil, means data is the one making the money now. But there's a lot of other nuances and connections when you look at both of them. The fact that oil in its actual raw state is useless. You can't use it for anything. And that's how data looks like in its raw, unstructured state. It kind of looks that way too, till you apply some sort of analysis to get information and insight out of it. And out of oil, you can generate quite a lot from your crude oil to your diesel. That's how data is as well. You can generate quite a lot of data sets and get a lot of applications to your data. The only difference here that I like to mention is that oil depletes. So as you constantly use oil, resources get depleted, but data is the opposite. As we continue to use data, we generate even more data and new data. As a matter of fact, there's a whole world of synthetic data now where you can actually generate data that's not from the real world, but has real world applications and usefulness as well. Okay, so next. So data is the new oil, is actually the new oil in that sense. So questions, what is data? So we talk about data. What is data? Data is raw facts. Like I said, we're constantly generating data. The words I speak, the words you speak, they're all data. Even your attitude and behavior can be interpreted as data. It can be facts, can be figures, information. Your emails, every time you send an email is data, okay? And it can all be processed, analyzed, and used for decision making. So in other words, information basically, you can look at data that way. So every time, every action, every reaction is creating data. All right, next. So your business, if you look at it from a business angle, please go to the next one. If you look at it from a business angle, every sale you make, you generate data because there are conditions in which those sales were made. There's a time when that sale was made. There's a place it was made. There's a reason it was made. The person who bought it, that purchased it at that moment. Is information that if you can extract, helps you make informed decisions tomorrow. So what is data analytics? It's the process of examining, then cleaning, transforming, and interpreting data to uncover insights and trends and patterns to be able to make that informed decision. So while we may not be able to go into the details, I think we'll look at it and look at that in the practical session. But the point is you have to clean your data, then you transfer it into maybe structured data that you can now properly interpret. And when you look at the pattern, look at the connections, look at all of that, you can uncover insights, you can see trends, you can see things that help you understand what's going on beyond the surface that helps you make those decisions. So data analytics is that process. All right, go on, next, please. Yeah, next. Okay, so let's look at, now there are many ways to look at data. Like I've talked about data, I've talked about structured data, unstructured data, talked about the qualitative data and quantitative data, but I want to look at it from this perspective, four main types of data analytics. Okay, one is descriptive, which describes past events, things that have happened in the past. For example, what happened on my website 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, what happened? How am I going to track the traffic and all of that? That diagnostic analytics basically focuses on trying to analyze and solve a possible problem. Like you know what diagnosis is. There's a disease now, and you want to figure out what's happening, what's causing it. So yeah, that's a type of data analytics. Then there's predictive analytics, which is now using past data, and I'll say present data as well, to look at what's possibly going to happen in the future. How can I forecast based on all that I have seen, the patterns? If maybe I always make sales, better sales on the 5th of every December, I can figure, I probably want to see that pattern and see how it works and what I therefore need to do, because I know that on the 5th of the coming December, I'll still make more sales. How can I maximize that? So that's predictive analytics. Then there's prescriptive analytics, which now recommends actions based on the predictions. So it suggests strategies and things you need to do. Okay, next. And all of this very useful in marketing, which is my major field. All right, so the goal here is to turn data into information and information into insight. I've said it before, data is actually almost like useless if you're not able to extract insight out of it. You know, it's almost like saying you have books on your table till you actually read those books, understand what's in those books, and then apply what you see to your life. Your life really doesn't change much. You know, the fact that you have books in your library doesn't help you. Okay, next. So we'll move on to AI now. What therefore is AI? Okay, so AI, as you know, is artificial intelligence. It's when computers and machines are designed or trained to think, learn, and solve problems like humans by using data, patterns, and algorithms. So they use data, they see the patterns, they use algorithms, which are instructions that you give to that computer to therefore carry out actions. So they think like human beings. They've studied how we think, how our brain is wired with neurons and all of that. So computers have been trained to think that way and therefore behave like we do. And therefore, that's what we call artificial intelligence, because it's intelligence that is not biological. It's not. It's artificial. Go to the next one. While we race towards what is referred to as AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, where computers can now actually think like us and behave like us. We're not there yet, but that's an interesting field to look at. So how does AI work? Number one, it learns from data, which means AI needs data. AI feeds on data. Okay, so studies large amounts of information, whether it's photos, text, numbers, a lot of it, you feed it into that AI, and now there are different ways this works. There's a way in which you train the AI and it can recognize those patterns. You can guide it, or you can let it, recognize those patterns itself. So it finds the patterns, it sees the trends, then it begins to make predictions based on those trends. And if you look at your large language model, for example, that predicts what it typically does when you ask it a question, it sees all the data that it has, and it can predict the next string of sentences or next string of words that should happen, that should automatically happen next. So when you ask it, define this for me, when it starts off, it begins to look at its data that it has and then begins to predict. It's actually predicting what's going to happen next. That's how it draws out your sentence for you. So based on past data, AI guesses what might happen next and therefore recommends out. If you want to think about storytelling, we use AI to tell stories, okay? Same process. It looks as a pool of data, all of the information it's been taught. If you shoot a gun, for example, what should happen next? If it's aimed at someone, then I can predict the person will get hot. So that's kind of the process, and it tells that story with all of that information then. And the good thing about it is it improves over time. So AI learns from mistakes. I'm sure you probably see sometimes where you're trying to, should I say, you're going on a website to browse, and then you see this pattern recognition that it pops up on your screen. It says you should guess, what will happen, in order to authenticate you to go to the next level on the website. It shows you these patterns. It tells you to click. That's you actually training an AI as well. Okay, so over the time, it improves on how it responds to you, learns from its mistakes. You will notice as well that every time your chat GPT gives you a response, it gives you a thumbs up, a thumbs down. If you click a thumbs down, it knows that it's made some error or it didn't quite do well. It will reorganize itself and present to you a better answer and learn from that mistake. So AI learns from the mistakes and get better with time. All right, next, please. So this is basically how it works. You have to feed it data. AI will not exist without data. Okay, and you have examples of how these things work. There's voice assistants like your Siri and Alexa. There's chatbots. In Sterling, we built a chatbot we called Naya. Okay, it's called Naya. It's a project that the team here worked on. So it's basically looking at all. So one of the things we figured out was when we have FAQs on the website, people have to literally go and read through them. Let's say, for example, your question, let's say we have a 50 FAQs, all right? And your question, the answer you need is on number 50. You literally have to go through 1 down to 50 to find your answer. It's a waste of your time. But with the chatbot, and this is just one use case, all you need to do is type a question and it immediately matches that question for you and intelligently, especially if it's AI powered, provides that answer in a very conversational way. And that's what we've been able to do with Naya, right? You can check it out. It's sterling.ng/Naya. Yeah, so self-driving cars also is another example where they detect objects and decide whether to stop or not. And they also use information that they've been trained on. Then you have recommendation engines or systems like Netflix or Spotify. It knows the kind of music you're listening to and can predict to you. Sometimes you notice situations where you visit a website to ask for something and then suddenly you realize everywhere you go, you find ads chasing you with that same thing. So it's recommendation engines. They understand the pattern, what you're looking for, and are able to pop that up for you. Again, it's a sales and marketing tool. Next, please. Yeah, so we've seen some examples. Now, these are just very common words that are used around AI, which is machine learning. Again, it's a type of AI that helps computers learn from data instead of being directly programmed. You know, I was listening to a session that I was trying to analyze data analytics versus AI and what the difference really is. And one of the things you find when it comes to data analytics is you actually literally have to give it instructions and tell you what to do. But with machine learning, you don't necessarily have to do that. It learns from what, it learns from its past and it can also improve in that sense. Yeah, so next. Deep learning is a bit more advanced. It's different from machine learning in the sense that it now begins to mimic how human brain works. So it's based on neural networks, layers of connected thinking. If you look at how the human brain is, the layers and the neural pathways through which information flows. So we've been able to study that and then create systems on computers that sort of mimic that. Okay, so I won't go into the details here. Go on, next one. All right, so I wanted with this slide to look at the connection between data analytics and artificial intelligence. One of the things you find with data analytics is raw data, raw materials. It's raw materials the AI needs. If you don't have data, you can't have AI, okay? Sure, there's a conversation where there's a certain conversation that AI is running out of data. And so we now need to create synthetic data for it. That's an argument. I won't say it's a fact, but the truth is we are now generating synthetic data to feed AI. Okay. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, requires AI. So data analytics can stand on its own. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, needs data and needs that to process. But however, it's a cyclic relationship, and that's what I wanted to bring out. data analytics feeds AI. AI, on the other hand, is able to help automate and automate data analytics itself. So yeah, you have data analytics standing on its own. Artificial intelligence needs it. But however, when you apply artificial intelligence to data analytics, it makes things faster, automates the process. You can use it for data cleaning. You can use to find and recognize patterns. You can use to predict outcomes. It makes things faster. I was listening to recently, I think ChatGPT has been improving how its system works. And one of the things they've done is also included data analytics feature into it. And you can have a bunch of data connected to your Google Drive, pick out documents that you have saved there and give it simple prompt instructions, and is able to help you analyze that data in speed, with a lot of speed, and give you responses and give you patterns and even generate graphs and visuals for you to see how your data is interpreted. Yeah, next, please. So again, artificial intelligence helps data analytics get better. Remember, today, I love this quote. Remember today, today's AI is the worst AI you will ever use. And that's because it's constantly improving and improving at an extreme rapid speed, all right? So today's AI is the worst AI you ever use. Next, please. All right, so let's look at a few use cases next. We're just going to look at 2 or 3 industries, and then we'll wrap this up. Marketing. So this is another point at which it's necessary to establish the fact that whichever field you're in, it does not matter what field you are, you need data analytics and you need that AI optimization to help you, okay? So whether you're in marketing, whether you're in HR, whether you are in, where again, in banking, finance, whether you are in logistics, you need data, you need analytics to be able to help, data analytics to be able to help you make better decisions. So some of the areas where it's useful in marketing is, number 1, customer segmentation. If you understand how to put your customers in proper segments, you know how to communicate with them better. And data analytics and AI will help you do that. Campaign optimization. As you run your campaigns, you're getting constant feedback. You're able to see what's going on. As a matter of fact, if you use AI to optimize your data analytics, it's able to do that in an automated way, automatically takes the feedback. There's a thing called A/B testing, for example, where you put your ads out, maybe 2 or 3, and that AI system is able to quickly recognize what's going on. If, let's say, you say, I have 3 campaigns running, I need to optimize for the best one, okay? The one people are reacting to better, all right? And I want to be able to create a system where if I put 200,000 on those campaigns, while the optimization is going on, it can shift some of the budget I've put in the other ones and immediately apply to the one that's gaining more traction without my involvement. So AI campaigns can help you optimize that. And then there's personalization, okay? And then there's personalized recommendations. You find that in Netflix, watches the kind of movies, and then there's sentiment analysis. We use Meltwater, for example, that helps you analyze how people are talking about you. So you can literally go and check, how are people perceiving me as a brand, as an individual. And it can literally search through all the networks, search through social media, search through blogs, search through everywhere, and then create a dashboard for you where you can see you are not liked because people are talking bad about you. And it can give you recommendations as what you need to do. Oh yeah, your positive sentiments are great. You can keep it up. And it will literally give you the points and the conversations on social media that are actually positive for you and negative for you. So there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of areas that you can apply data analytics and AI. Next, please. Finance in banking, okay? There's fraud detection. your AI system plus your data analytics, it can be predictive in the sense that it can even help you prevent fraud from happening. And let me give you an instance. If you have an individual who all of his life, he's never withdrawn money beyond 50,000 naira. He's always withdrawing 20, 20, 20 and less. Suddenly, the system detects that he's trying to withdraw 500,000 naira. It's going to flag it and then probably put a second authentication level automatically that that person now has to go through, the hurdle the person has to go through in order to authenticate that it's actually him trying to make that transaction. So that's fraud detection, fraud prevention, there's risk management, there's algorithmic trading. This happens where you're able to predict market trends and then make decisions based on that. And then give you personalized financial service, especially if you are, yeah. So basically, if I have money and I want to determine where and how to invest my money based on who I am, all the information it has about me, it can predict that. Next, please. And then there's health as well. Okay, I didn't talk about health here, but that's very interesting for me because I mean, a long time ago, I saw this pairs of shoes that you could wear that can predict if you're going to have arthritis in the next, maybe in the next year or so, because it studies a pattern while you're working, you're using those pairs of shoes. It studies how you work. It already has information and knowledge of how your system should work. And it can see the patterns, can see the weaknesses, and can predict you need to see a doctor at this time, and because it seems like there's signs of this happening. Okay, so that's in health. Please go on. And then you have HR, human resource, from smart hiring, using AI and data analytics to study those CVs and pick out the best based on patterns. And remember, this is a lot of data you have to load into it. So you understand the kind of CVs that will usually produce good employees. It studies all of that and it can predict that for you, at least to a certain accuracy level. Okay, and then there have been organizations who've used data analytics and AI to also help improve employee retention. So literally, it studies all the conversations that are happening with this individual, whether it's by emails, private conversations with supervisors and all of that. It can tell if this person is soon going to resign. You can imagine that. So it's I think there's a company that did that. I can't recall right now, but it's a company that actually did use, because they're just having a lot of turnover and deployed AI to help them process that. And they were able to a very good degree predict which employee was going to resign soon, and therefore what should we do to keep this employee a bit longer. And then there's performance management and there's workforce planning. Next, please. So the bottom line is, across every field, there's an application, whether it's customer service. Like I just talked about Naya. One of the use cases of Naya was that we found Naya, which is the chatbot by Sterling. We found that a lot of traffic was going heavily towards the human customer service individuals. And we thought to ourselves, how can we sort of at least create a front layer to reduce that number? So you first of all chat to this AI, and this AI processes your information, and where it's not able to, it can now refer you to a real human. Okay. And one of the things we're trying to add as a layer to it now, which will come out very soon, is to even have voice conversations. So that technology is already present. So you can actually click a button and have normal voice conversations with your AI, asking questions about your account. And then we create a layer, which is also almost like a phase 2 of this project, where it can literally look at your account, study what you've been doing, and also give you advice as well. So yeah, you'll be able to attend to your basic needs and your basic queries. All right, next, please. All right, so the ethical considerations, which we will just look at in a breeze. Yeah, next. I was listening to Elon Musk a few days ago, and he was speaking to an audience in I think it's Davos, if I get that right. And one of the statements he made was this. He said, "Look, do not train your AIs to lie, because if you do, the future effect of that is very harmful. And while I may not be able to make that extrapolation now, but if you watch some movies, I mean, there are plenty of movies that have come out, you can see how that can project to the future. If you train it to lie, if you tell it things that are not true, untrue information, it can make untrue conclusions in the future that could actually be damaging to humanity. Okay. And when it comes to data, if you can't protect people's data, don't collect it. Okay. All right. Next, please. Because I think I was talking with my brother recently. He referred me to a website because he bought something on that website. And I just went there to check to see what's happening. And guess what? I start seeing pop-up of his name saying, this person just bought this product. This person just bought this product. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Is there a connection? Are they aware that, there's a connection between us? Maybe not. Maybe it's just a matter of what's it called now? It's stored data there. But the point is, he wasn't happy about it because he was like, what if I'd used my full name? Because it shows your name, shows your location, show what you bought. Did it ask for consent to use that information? That's why I can possibly decide, you know what, because of what you did, someone became aware that I bought this product and then robbed me. Okay. And so I'm going to sue that company. So there's a privacy, should I say, there's a responsibility that every company has as you collect those data to protect the individuals, to protect those from whom you're collecting that data to a large extent. And there are laws that provide that protection. Okay. Then obviously there's the bias and fairness issue. There's when AI started becoming a thing, there was a group of ladies, for example, who said, you know what, AI is biased. Every time we ask AI to generate a human, it always generates a male. Maybe because it was men who trained it and they used a lot of male data, male pictures to train it. I don't know. For example, Meet Johnny. They'll always try to, maybe it's a bit fairer now, but then it will always generate a male and it will always generate a Caucasian male. So there's a bias part of it and there's a need to always be fair in how you train your data. Okay, please next. So what does the future look like? And this is where my imagination flies. I've written enough on my LinkedIn posts about possible future of AI applications, from agriculture to medicine to meat production to it's unimaginable. As a matter of fact, I think the recent one that I found out was how there's this company that's now using AI to generate new types of, if you like, elements. If you did science, there's a fixed number of elements that we have on this earth, okay? And we have a table that shows it. And now they're using AI to possibly create matches of those things, of those elements, create new compounds that can withstand much more pressure than your typical metal will do, the typical iron will do, that's stronger than iron and all of that, for different things. They're using it to, there's self-healing materials now that, for example, applications for your roads, if if for any reason there's a puncture, it's able to heal itself and cover that puncture without anyone coming to, have to retar. And there's a lot of other uses. We've spoken about your fridge, for example, giving you information about when your milk is about to be finished. And then even actually making a purchase from the store and you get it delivered without your connection. Then education is there as well. There's a lot of use cases for education as well when it comes to the AI world, where people are There's micro learning, different ways people learn now, where they don't need to go to formal school as we know it. This is one of those schools which I believe is well suited for that. All right, so let's look at a few things I've written down here, and then we'll wrap up. The future of data analytics and AI in business. Yeah, so more automation. And just as a prediction, these are some of the kind of jobs you'll be finding: AI automation specialist, workflow optimization manager, intelligent system supervisor. And there's hyper personalization, where you have ads that are tailored to you. You can literally, the same ads that are being served to you while you're sitting next to to someone else won't be the same ads you see, even though you visit the same website, because it understands you 100%. And obviously, it leads to smarter decision making. And then if I look at, as a human being, how am I using some of the tools that are available to me now, okay, while I wrap up now, to improve my own efficiency, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude AI, whether it's a DeepSeek, whichever one it is that you decide to use. I think it's important that every human being right now begins to get themselves into the system, understand how it works, learn how to use data, learn how to use AI to optimize what you do and make yourself even a better person, whether it's from learning, whether it's from automating your everyday tasks. It's very important that we all get into it. And I think old school is a great opportunity for you to get to learn that. And so, yeah, thank you very much. I think that should be the end of the slide. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's
All
a
right.
summary.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Maurice. I actually learned a lot. Um, I know AI, right? But the thing is, I never knew when you said something about the shoe, you wear the shoe and they can actually predict it. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. And again, you mentioned some tools in marketing that you use. If it's possible, you can drop some tools probably you use for different things, probably on the chat to encourage more persons, to go try them out. That would be great. Like I'm impressed. And then the AI that was developed by Sterling Bank, that was really impressive. That is
Mhm.
impressive, right? Really insightful. Thank you so much. Tommy, do you have anything to say
Thank you.
to Maurice? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Or just keep your questions first, right? Yeah.
So thank you. I
Tommy,
like, I was also, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
I
we
was
can.
learning a whole lot. Yeah, I was learning a whole lot. And as a non-technical professional that has always worked with tech companies, right? It has seemed so, far-reaching, like to really know these things, and even when especially that slide of how AI works, because I have been asking this question. I've asked so many questions about quantum computing, and it's like, oh, it's like when you're trying to explain to me, I even complicated it more. And then I just learned, how I have like basic knowledge of what AI is. I use AI tools, but understanding how it works is like a whole game changer, right? And also the future of a data and AI in business is something that is mind blowing. Our environment is something that can keep us, really restricted because we're not seeing these things all around us, right? Seeing as we're still developing. But it's good to expand your mind to see that, oh, this is happening. Like we have this. The same thing you said, Susan, about the shoes. I didn't know that was a thing. I knew about biometric rings, I knew about the watches, but I didn't know about the shoes. So it's really exciting. Thanks, Maurice, for opening up a whole new world of possibilities and sparking curiosity basically. Thank you. I really enjoyed the session.
Thank you.
Even comment here, people are expressing their excitement. Christabel says she learned so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Morris. Abdul says this has been very informative, and Ayomide is thanking you for great insights, and so on and so forth. Said is also asking that you help list some tools that a chatbot can be built on, if you know any. And Abdul is thanking you once again. And he's asking if we continue this kind of workshop. So Susan is the one who, brought up this initiative and spearheaded it. So definitely, I'm sure it's something we'd love to keep doing. Thank you.
Okay, and please, if you're not using Sterling Bank, try to use Sterling Bank, right? And then I'm I'm actually impressed. I know that also we are currently training an AI bot, right? But I know that for Sterling Bank has always been the lead when it comes to innovations, right? In terms of tech innovations. Not saying this to blow anybody's ones, but yeah, when it comes to innovations around, especially even their social media campaign. I know they've toned it down a little, but they are always changing the conventional way of doing things. So thank you very much, Maurice, and to Sterling Bank for this insights. We really, really appreciate this. And now, please, we need time for the to get our hands dirty on data, work with real life data. For those persons that after this class, you can tell somebody, I am partially a data analyst. I can work with Power BI, right? So, is Samuel still on the call? Samuel, yeah. So Samuel is over to you. So Samuel is going to take us through practical sessions. Please get your Power BI ready. We are not going to wait for anybody, like I said before, to install Power BI. You should have installed. It doesn't take time. Highest 5 minutes max, less than that if your network is good to install that. So please get ready. Samuel, over to you. Yeah, so we are working with time. So Samuel, over to you.
Hi everyone. Okay, so I think we'll head over to the practical session. So basically Maurice has done amazingly well in breaking down or demystifying the AI concepts, right? So we'll just look at the data analytics part and how we can also use some AI features in Power BI to influence our decisions. So I think I'll have my screen shared and then we can proceed. So I'd like to believe everyone has their Power BI downloaded and installed already, as well as the data set for the session today. Okay, so let me just put on my screen. Please give me a moment. Okay, I believe everyone can see my screen. So we have a folder which was shared to everyone, and then there is a data set, right? So you can just go on ahead, download the data set. Now, here's the use case for this particular session. So there's an organization that runs a call center operations, right? And then you, assuming you are hired as a manager, right? Or assuming there is a manager, right, that hires you as a data professional to be able to help solve the current problem. Now, what is the problem? The call center manager is responsible for overseeing operations, ensuring customer satisfaction, and maintaining high agent efficiency. However, there are reports that indicate an increase in an average call response time, a decline in the first call resolution rate, and fluctuating customer satisfaction scores. In order to improve operational efficiency, the manager wants to understand some of these agent performance, who are the top performing agents, who are the agents that are not performing as well enough compared to the others, and what trainings would they be implementing in order to help them better. They also want to find out the customer issues. Are they being resolved efficiently and timely? Customer satisfaction trends, what factors influence the customer satisfaction the most? And can we also be able to predict future call volumes, agent workloads, and resolution success? So this is basically implementing AI as well, right? Now in Power BI, we're going to look at how we can be able to first off understand the data and then be able to generate insights from this data. And then we can see what trends we're able to identify, how the manager or the organization can optimize their operations and enhance the customer experience overall. Right. So we also have the business objectives of the analysis, which is listed here. I think everyone has the link to the drive, so you probably go over it. Now, before carrying out your analysis, it's always important to understand your data. You don't just get your data and then jump into analyzing the data with hopes to find something there. You'd probably get lost at the end of the day, right? Now, one thing that Maurice mentioned during his session was that every organization has data, right? But you cannot make informed decision if you're not using your data. So data not being used is data being useless, right? Another thing to also note is that most organizations tend to believe that they need big data in order to make informed decisions, but that's not the case. You instead need good data in order for you to make informed decisions. So regardless of how small it is, it has to be good enough, right, in order for you to be able to make informed decisions. So we're going to understand our data set and make it good enough for informed decisions. So this is basically an overview of the data. There's the call ID, the agent name, the call time, and dates when the call was made, the speed of answer in seconds, the call duration, whether the call was answered or not, whether it was resolved or not, the satisfaction rating, and then of course, the topics, right, that were associated with that particular call. So let's have a look at it. So everyone should have their data set downloaded by now. Right, so I think I already have mine downloaded. I'll probably just download again. Okay, so I think I have that downloaded already. Yeah, so I have it here already, so that's fine. Yep. Okay.
So another question, sorry, Samuel, people want to ask is what format should they download it as? Is it CSV? Is it XLS?
Oh, okay,
Whichever.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. Okay, so you have the data, right? When you view the drive, this is what you'll be seeing on your end. So you can just click on the three dots here, and then you download it. Once you download, it gets downloaded to your device as its original format. But in case you have options, maybe you view the data set, hence why you're asking, you can click on the file here, scroll down to download, and then you can download as an Excel file. So please download it as an Excel file to your device, right? So there, you should be good. I hope that helps.
Samuel, are you here? We are here, yeah. So yes.
Yes,
I was
yes,
looking for people. Yeah.
okay, so I was asking if that helps to download the data sets.
Yes, actually, I had to ask because I know that we have newbies and different persons, right? Um, so everyone, please, what's the word now? Please let's comment. I like classes that are interactive. I beg you, data people, please talk so that we know that we are carrying people along. Samuel is your class. I'm not interrupting again.
Uh,
Bye bye.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you very much. Okay, so we already have the problem, right, that we've been able to identify. Now, in the case of data analytics, there are certain things that need to be considered before you can be able to make informed decisions. I think I'll just have a bit of this part shown, right? So the ABCs of data analysis, right? Now, the first things first is asking the right questions to be able to understand what problem you want to solve, which is what we've also been able to look at here, right? So the manager is asking questions. Who are the top performing agents? Who needs additional trainings? Are the customer issues being resolved efficiently? Now, this manager needs answers to these questions. So which means that in the data analytic process, we're already asking the right questions and defining the problem. What is the problem? We want to improve efficiency in the organization, right? Now, in order for us to proceed into solving this problem and finding the answers to those questions we've outlined, we then need to break the data down into workable parts. In this case, what we're going to be doing is to clean and organize the data to make sure that the data becomes standard and is in a much more workable format, right? Now, once we're done with that, the next thing we get to do is to create insights, which basically means we start to analyze and interpret the data that we have gotten and analyzed, right? You can decide to also put in D, which is to deliver the results, E, and evaluate your strategies, and then you can start making your informed decisions, right? So let's head on to Power BI and get started. Data set loaded and ready to go. Awesome. All right. Now, when you launch your Power BI, this is what you should be seeing on your screen, right? So first things first, it's important to understand where your data set is coming from, right? What is your data source? So you need to understand that aspect. Now, various organizations have their different data sources. You could be getting field data by going out on the field to collect data from individuals or whatever platform that you're looking at, right? You could also be getting your data through surveys. You could also be getting your data through forms and other things as well. You could be getting your data from what has already been imputed into an Excel spreadsheet or a workbook. You could be getting your data from a data lake. You could be getting it from a SQL server, which is a database, right? So you could be getting it from various other sources. So you need to be conscious enough to know what data source am I getting my data from. In simple, you want to know where is your data stored, right? Where is this data that you need to analyze? Is it online? You need to go online to that particular platform to get the data. Is it on your device? Maybe you have an Excel file or a CSV or PDF file. So you need to be able to know where your data is. Now, in this case, our data has been downloaded to our devices. So we have it on our device, right? Now, our data is also an Excel file. So this means that we'll be selecting the Excel workbook, right? So if you look back to the data, you'd see here that it is an XLSX file, which means that it is an Excel file. So we have that, and then we can proceed. Now we're going to click on Excel workbook. When you click on Excel workbook, it takes you to your device where you need to look for your data. Where's the data? And then this is my data set. I'm going to select my data, right? Because I have it in a folder. I'm going to select my data and click on open. So please let me know if we're on the same page. I hope everyone. So I'm using Power BI, Daniel, I'm using Power BI. There was a link that was shared to have that downloaded. Okay, following Fatima, thank you. Anyone else? Awesome, Ikenna. Okay, so one more person, awesome, Olufemilayo, thank you very much. So I believe we're good to go. All right, so we have the data set here and we're going to select it and then click on open, right? So once you click on open, it takes you to what is called the navigator. Now, the navigator is where you get to preview your data to be sure that this is the data you want to work with, right? So you're going to preview it here by clicking on the data. Once you click on it, you can see a preview of your data, all the column headers, and some of the data it contains. Now, at this stage, if there are some errors that your data contains, you might start seeing them. For example, in cases like this, you can see that there are null data here, right? We have some nulls, which are kind of inappropriate for our work. But let's proceed, and then we'll see what can be done with the nulls. Now, the next stage from getting your data into this stage here is to start transforming your data. On the lower part of your screen, please make sure that you have it selected, right? On the lower part of your screen, you should see a transform data, a load, and a cancel. I'm going to say something. Either of them works. However, in the data analysis process, there is there's a concept called ETL, right? Which basically stands for extraction of data, transformation of data, and loading of your data. Now, it's important to follow this guide, right? What we've been able to do is to extract our data from its source, which in our case is Excel source, right? The next thing we want to do is to transform the data. Now, the process of transforming your data would open you up to checking if your data contains any problems that might affect your analysis. Now, if it does, then you want to be sure to work on those problems and have your data in a much more proper, reliable, and accurate form before analyzing, right? Now, if you decide to load your data without transforming your data first, a lot of times you most likely end up with errors, which in turn would cause a mislead in your analysis or in the insights that you've been able to generate, right? So very important, always ensure to transform your data first. Whether there's a problem or no problem, be sure to always look at the transform data first. So in this case, we're going to click on transform data. Once we click on transform data, it will take us into the transformation platform. Now, this is a transformation tool called Power Query Editor. A Power Query Editor is a dedicated or specialized cleaning tool in Power BI, right? The only purpose of the Power Query Editor is to help you clean your data, manipulate your data, transform your data, get your data in a much more proper state before analysis. So this is all what we're going to do here in the Power Query Editor, right? Now, some of us may not have some of the things that I currently have here. So let's go on ahead and activate it. Now, if you're concerned about having the valid, the error, and the empty showing on your end, please go to your View tab. Everyone, please go to your View tab. In your View tab, please turn on the column quality or check on the column quality box, and that should bring your quality here. So let me know if that's done. Go to your View tab and then select the column quality. This way, you can then be able to get a quick view or overview of how bad the data in that particular column is. Now, you can see from what we have, the majority of them says that the data is 100% valid, 0% error, and also 0% empty. In many other cases, you might be having, say, about 60% valid, error might be about 10% errors, and then your empty might be around maybe 30% empty, right? So in this case, we have them 100% valid. So let's proceed. Now, one thing to also understand is in data analysis, when you're trying to transform your data, there are certain things to put into consideration, such as the data types, the data itself that it contains, right? If the data has an error, maybe for example, there's a misspelling in your data, you want to look out for some of those things. You also want to look out for duplicated data. You want to look out for outliers, basically data that tends to differ from the actual data. For example, let's assume we collect data from everyone here on this call. And let's say this particular call is supposed to be for persons between the ages of 18 to, let's say, 60, right? And then we're having some persons' ages being around 200, right? Those are outliers that would eventually skew the data, right? So they are basically things that we are not going to consider as proper data for the analysis. Right. Now, in this case, we've been able to understand that we need to look out for your data types, right? Which is what we have here. There's either an ABC in front of the column name, or there's a date icon in front of the column name, or there's a date and time icon in front of the column name, or there's a 1, 2, 3 in front of the column name, or any other one that we have. Now, what we call data type is basically the attributes or what the computer system looks at in order to understand the type of data that has been imputed. So in this case, it tells us that the type of data that has been imputed into the core ID column is a text data. So ABC stands for text data, which means it could be data such as your name, right? Or it could be data that has a combination of both text and numbers, which in this case, we have both text and numbers, right? Hence why it is a text data. In this case, we also have a text data for the agents because they are just pure text. In this case, we have a date data because they are, of course, date formatted. We have a date time here as well. We also have topics, right, which are text. We have the answered, we have the resolved, we have the speed of answer in seconds, which are in numbers, right, because they've already been converted into numbers. We also have the average talk duration. And of course, lastly, we have the satisfaction rating in numbers as well. So this helps us understand our data, how the data is structured. Now, it's time for us to start looking at, are there problems with this data? How can we be able to sort this data before proceeding into analysis? Now, one of the things to look out for would be, in this case, we have nulls. Before we come back to the nulls, right, let's try to do something. Now, a number of times, you need to ensure that your data is well structured and formatted to a point that it is very, very readable. By readable, I mean everyone can easily decode what it is. Instead of reading symbols like maybe just Y, of course, it could be yes, right? But instead of reading that, we want to have something that's even more proper to aid readability. Now, it's also important to understand every single column, right? Which is why we had the data set overview. So it gives us a guide of the type of data that it contains and what data is being entered there. Now, if we revert back to our data set overview, we'd see that the answered column, YN, tells us whether the call was answered or not, right? But in this case, I could say, let's make it even more better. We could give it a proper column name called response, right? Was the call responded to? Yes. Was it responded to? No, it was unanswered. It was answered, right? So we could do something like that. Now, to have that done, what we're going to do is to double click on the answered here on the column name. So everyone, please double click on the column name. So once you do that, you can change it to response. Now, it's also okay to keep it the same way it is. So if you're fine with that, then that's absolutely okay, right? So what we're trying to do is to just make it even more readable. So was the call responded to? We have yes, we have no, right? So we can also do something else by right-clicking on it and replace all the Y into yes or answered, right? So I'm going to right-click on the column, and then I'll scroll down to where we have replace values. I'll take that again. Right-click on the response column or the answered column. Scroll down to where you have replace values and click on that. Now it asks you what value you want to find. So in this case, we're looking for a value of Y, right? Please be sure to use the proper text cases, right? So if you have it shown here in capital letters, please be sure to type it in capital letter as well, so you don't have a mismatch. Now, in this case, we have value to find, which is y. So what value do we want to replace it with? Now, you can decide to replace yours with yes, or you can decide to replace it with a value of answered. So this means, what is the response status in my own case? The call was answered. You can also decide what is the response status of yours. It was yes, or it was picked up, right? So in my case, I would prefer to work with answered. So you can decide which works for you. But I think in order to stay on the same page, let's all keep it at answered. So value to find y, value to replace with is answered. So now we've been able to replace everywhere where the data has a y, we've replaced those values with answered. So we can likewise do the same thing for the value of n, right? Click on the column, scroll down to replace values, and then value to find is n, value to replace with is unanswered. Are we all on the same page? Can we change the response to responded for a better understanding? Okay, awesome. Just a suggestion. Awesome. Yes, so I think that works as well. We can do response to responded. Okay, so I don't think if we do that, we're going to, okay, so that works, but we might need to responded yes or no. Yeah, that works as well. I think response just works fine for me. What is the response? It was answered, it was unanswered, right? So we can do this. Yes, we're on the same page. Awesome. So now we've been able to change the data from all y and n into something more proper, right? Likewise, we can do the same for resolved. We can first change it into resolution. What was the resolution status? It was resolved, it was not resolved, right? So I can do this and call it resolution. Now for the resolution, we can change the y into resolved and the n to unresolved, right? I believe that works. Let me see what we have in the charts. Okay. Can we standardize the response column to lowercase before we replace the value to avoid a mismatch? I'm not sure what you mean, but okay, so I think I get it now. Yes, but I think that's like also not necessary, right? Sure, you can standardize it to lower cases, but that's not necessary. The main thing that you want to do is to get the exact value of what is there, right? Exactly how it's typed in the data already. Put it in your value to find, and then in your value to replace, you can decide to go lowercase. Right, so yeah, that works. So for resolution, we can right click, scroll down, and replace the values to y would be replaced with resolved, right? And we'll change n to unresolved. So unresolved, or maybe pending or not resolved, depends on whichever works best for you. Some of us will need the repetition of the class so that it will be clear, considering the fact that some of us are new to this. All right, great. Okay, please do confirm that you're on the same page, right? I believe it's being recorded. Okay, yes, from Ikenna. Anyone else? Let me see. We're on the same page from Kemi. Okay, awesome. Ayomide as well. All right, great. Okay, so let's proceed. So if you are kind of stuck at any point in time, please do let me know. You can use the chat and then I would have a look at that. Otherwise, you can decide to raise up your hands and check on that. Okay, so now we've been able to transform the response column and the resolution column, make them even more proper. Now let's look at the other columns that have nulls. Now, why are they nulls? First off, what are nulls? Nulls are a representation that data is either missing or was not entered, right? So we need to figure out, is the data missing due to one process or the other? Or this is a case of data was not entered, right? So you need to understand them before knowing what to do. Now, in the case of missing data, there are so many things that you need to consider in order to make sure that the data becomes proper before you analyze. There's no one size fits all process when it comes to missing data. Just like we did here, we had to just replace the values to something proper. Now, in the case if this data is actually missing, there are options, there are like 5 to 6 options that we can try out, right? Just to be sure that it works out fine for us. Now, in the case where it is a case of no data was entered, then we need to properly understand the next line of action. So what do we do? First off, let's understand this particular data. Why are we having nulls? Now, it's important to note that nulls are not really a good thing in your data, right? So whenever you have nulls, you become very concerned about it. This is going to affect the credibility of my analysis. Having nulls could mean that data seems to be missing, or it could also translate to data not being entered. So what do I do? Now, in this case, we need to understand it. The speed of answer in seconds says null. We have about 18% of them being null. Likewise, we have about 18% of the average talk duration. And we also have the same for satisfaction rating. So there's definitely a pattern here that we need to understand. So what exactly is this pattern? Now let's do something. Other than these 3 columns here, every other column seems fine. They have valid data. So let's go on to focus on only these data to understand why they are having nulls, right? So we'll come here and click on this button here called the filter button. So if you look at a particular column, you'd see the 1, 2, 3 for speed of answer in seconds. There's a 1, 2, 3 to the left. There's a column name in the middle, and then there is a button to the right of it. So the button to the right of it is called the filter button. So you click on it, and we're going to unselect everything, and select to see only the null values. So we're going to unselect everything and select to see only the null values. Once you have only the null value selected, then you click on OK. Now, what we've done is that we have filtered our data to only focus on the places where we have null values. So let's properly understand the data. Why exactly are we having null values? Now we can see that all of the 18%, right, there are over 1,000 records and happens or occurs on only these 3 columns. So let's start from the beginning of our data. They all seem to have core IDs. They all seem to have agents that the calls were placed to, right, or agents that were supposed to handle those calls. They all have the date when those calls came in, the time as well when the calls came in, the topic related to that particular issue when the calls came in. But in the response, we can see that those calls were not answered. They were not responded to. Now, because the call was not responded to, they were also not resolved. So this can then start making sense. Because the calls were not answered, they were also not resolved. It means that there was no metrics or recorded data for how much time it took for that particular agent to respond to the call. There was also no talk duration. And because there was no call that was answered, there is also no satisfaction rating from the customer. Please confirm if this is making sense. I'll take it again. Now, because the call was not answered, it means that there was no resolution to provide, right? Now, because the call was also not answered, there is no speed of answer in seconds. Because the call was also not answered, there is no talk duration. Because the call was also not answered, there is no satisfaction rating from the customer. Does this make any sense? Anyone? All right. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So this way, we can then understand that this is not a case of data being missing. It's a case of no data was recorded intentionally because there's actually no data to be recorded, right? Now, if it were a case of missing data, we probably would have started struggling or scratching our heads to find out, so what works, what are we going to do in these cases? But because this is not a case of missing data, it's a case of data was not captured or entered intentionally, right? And we're good to go. Now, in this case where we have a situation like this, we cannot do anything further. What we can only do is to leave the data this way. Now, here's a tricky one. In many cases when you have data like this, right, because they are numerical data, in many cases, you go ahead to either find out the average mean of that data and replace them with that. In other cases, you want to replace with a constant of 0, right? Because of course, 0 plus 500 will still result to 500, right? So it almost looks like nothing was added. Adding the 0 would just make them be complete. But in many other cases, you need to be very sure if this approach is necessary. Now, in this particular case, doing anything else like adding a constant or replacing with the average mean is just going to jeopardize our work further. Because why? We've been able to carefully observe the data and have understood that this is a case that no data was recorded because there's nothing to be recorded. So we cannot do any of those operations. Now, what we can do now is we've been able to understand this, right? So null values can also describe a pattern in data. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. So it's not every time you get to remove your null values or think about them as evil, right? So in this case, they seem to be telling us something. So we just need to understand that pattern. Now, what we're going to do is to bring our table back to its original state. So we'll come here under applied steps. On your right-hand side, you would find your applied steps. Applied steps on your right-hand side. Scroll down to where you have your filtered rows, which is the last action you just performed. I'll take that again. Applied steps on your right-hand side. You scroll down to where you have your filtered rows, and then you click on the X button for filtered rows. Once you do that, it's going to revert your table into its original format. Please, which of the headers was promoted and how was it done? Okay, so in the applied steps, right, it shows you both actions that have been taken by you and by the Power Query editor. For example, actions like the source was not done by you, the navigation was also not done by you, the promoted headers and the changed type were not done by you. They were actions that were done by the system, right? So it does those by default, right? Good. I hope that answered your question, right? So what the promoted headers basically mean is that it just recognizes that there are actual headers for this particular data, right? And promotes them to become actual headers. So applied steps, you scroll down and you click on the X button for your filtered rows. So it takes your table back to its original format. And we've now come to an understanding that we're not going to do anything about our nulls, right? Now, the next thing that we want to do is to look at the dates. There is a date column and there is a time column. However, there seems to be some miscommunication between the both of them. The date column has a date itself. The time column has a date and a time. And of course, the date here in this case is giving us from way, way back, right? Now, in this case, I think there's a problem with the system trying to recognize the time here, hence why it has a date and a time together. We can see that there's an actual date column for the call. So why are we having this? Now, if in a case whereby the date and the time, where is exporting? I'm not sure what you mean by exporting. Hi, Itunu. I think, yep. I'm not sure what you mean by exporting. Now, if in a case where we had the same date, would have agreed, okay, so this could just be it's a combination of both the date and the time. But in this case, something seems to be wrong and we have to look at it. Now, what do we do? Maybe one of the solutions to solving this would be to properly structure this as a time column, right? To house only a time data instead. Maybe that might just solve the problem. Another thing we could also do would be, maybe we need to break this column into two and then discard all of these 1899 properties and stick with only the time. So either of these methods can work. There are also other options that we can try out to see what works best. Now, what we're going to do first off, would right-click on this, right-click on the time column. Let me see, where you return the data to the original form. Okay, so I think I'll take that again. So this is for Itunu and anyone else. Go to your applied steps. You scroll down, you should see the last action that you performed. If it's still on filtered column, right, or filtered rows, then you need to click on the X button for that particular last action of filter. If it's not that, then please do not click on the X button. It's just going to reverse whatever action you've done. All right. Now for the time column, we're going to right click on it and scroll down to, we're going to change the data. Let me see. We're going to change the type. We'll scroll down and change the type from a date time into a time. Right click on the time column, scroll down to where you find change type and change it from a date time into time. And once you do that, it discards all of the date values that it contains and retains only the time. So this then tells us the actual time those calls came in. Are we good? Are we all good? Okay, so let's see. All right, good. Now, whatever we're doing here, right, I think it's important to note, whatever we're doing here also applies across all industries. As long as you're working with data, you need to prepare your data for analysis. You definitely have to do some of these things. So you need to be cautious enough, conscious and cautious enough to understand what are the things that you need to look out for in this data, right? So we have that done and our time is good. So we now have a time data type and we're all good with this data. Now, let's assume that our data is good enough for the next stage, right? One last thing that we need to do is to check if this data contains duplicates. Now, I usually keep my duplicates check for the last action, right? Because I need to first carry out every other thing before finding out if it contains duplicated record. So let's now check if it has duplicates. So how do we check? We'll go to the transform tab. Everyone, go to your transform tab. See. So go to your transform tab, right? And click on your count rows. Now, what we want to do is to first get a count of our data before we remove duplicates, and then also get a count of it after we remove duplicates. This is going to help us be certain of whether there were duplicates in our data or not. Now we can decide to just go on ahead and remove the duplicates, right? There's no cause for alarm, but we want to be aware if there were duplicates before and after the removal. So to go to your transform tab and then click on the count rows. And it tells us that we have 5,998 records. 5,998 records. Is it the same with everyone else? All right. Yes. Okay, cool. So we seem to have only a few persons responding. Can we hear from other persons? What's going on? We have introverts on the call. Okay. Average talk duration column is same with time column. Okay, we'll check on that. All right, so we're good. Okay, so now we're aware that we have a total value of 5,998. So we need to bring our table back to its original state. So again, we'll go to the applied steps and remove the last action we just performed, which is the counted rows. So we'll remove the last action, which is the counted rows. Remove counted rows, and then our table is back to order. Now that our table is back to its original state, we'll come here. There is a tiny button that has like a table icon just before the first column. You should see this button here before the first column. So you click on that button, and then you scroll down to remove duplicates. I'll take that again. There's a button before the first column. You click on that button, and then you scroll down to remove duplicates. Now, what we're doing is to make sure that whatever action we're performing right now cuts across the entire table. So this is like the table button, right? Whatever action we're performing here cuts across all the data. So we'll click on that button, scroll down, and remove duplicates. Now, duplicates values have been removed, right? It could be that there were duplicates. It could be that there were no duplicates. So let's take a count again to find out indeed how many duplicate values were or were not removed. So count rows, and we have 5,001 record left. 5,001 record left in this case. So we're going to go back to our data, and let's have a look at that. I'm just going to check here. Give me a moment. Okay, so it's supposed to be able to show me for more, but that's fine. All right, so we have 5,001. There's definitely something wrong. We should be having about 5,000. So I think something must have. Let me know what you're having on your end, 5,001 or 5,000. Anyone? Let me see. 5,001, 5,001, 5,001, 5,001. Okay. So most likely there's a unique data. Okay, so that's fine. I think we can still work with that. If we notice anything, we can always come back to our data. All right, so someone mentioned that the time seems to be the same as the average talk duration. Okay, so I think that's a good one. So for average talk duration, we can as well remove the improper date. So everyone, please do the same thing. Right, click on average talk duration and remove change type and change it to time. Right. So this way we can be able to understand whether it's the same. So 223, let's see if it's the same. This is 1258. So they are absolutely two different things. Go through the step again. Hi, Ayomide. Please, what step in particular? The 5001. Okay, so we removed duplicate data, right? So we removed duplicate data from our work by clicking on this button. We scroll down and then clicked on remove duplicates. And then we performed a count to be sure that our data is had duplicate values that were removed. So now we've been able to sort out this. At this point, our data is good to go. Like I said, it should be 5,000, not 501, but we can always check on it again when we start visualizing. So what we're going to do right now will be to load our data. The first data type changed was for which column and from what to what. Okay, so I mentioned that the first change data type here, right, is system orchestrated. So it is the system that performs that during the process when your data loads up into the Power Query editor. So the system recognizes the source from which the data is coming, also recognizes the navigation aspect of it, also recognizes that there are headers in that particular data, and then recognizes the columns, the data types rather. So all of this change type, it's basically the system trying to recognize it and get the correct data types, right? Or the correct properties of those data. So you don't need to panic about this. Every other action that we've done is basically from renamed columns down until the last part. All right, so I believe we're good. So I'm going to take this question. Okay, so I think I answered this already. All right, so now that we're done with the data preparation and transformation, the next thing we want to do is to move into our analysis stage. This is the stage where we now start understanding what the data is telling us. How can we then be able to make impacts? How can we be able to do this? Oh, this is what is going on in the organization. This is what the data is telling you, right? So this is the stage where we're then going to be able to uncover all the insights. Before we do that, we're going to rename here from sheet 1 into call center. I'm just going to put this here. So just rename it into call center. You can call it call center data, whichever works for you, right? Now, once you're done with that, next thing you want to do is to go to your home tab and click on the close, right? So there's the close and apply. So you can just click on close and apply, or you click on this button here, right? So if you decide to click on the drop down, you click on close and apply. If you decide to click on just this button here, it just closes and applies directly for you. Any question before I close mine? Any question? Let me know in the chat if you have any question. All right, so no questions, so we're good to go. So we're gonna close and apply, and it's going to load up our data into the Power BI environment, where we can then start building our reports, gaining our insights, carrying out our analysis, and doing all what we need to do. Let me see. How do you change the type for average talk duration? So let's click on average talk duration, scroll down to where you have change type, and click on time. Now we have our data loaded here, right? So this is the Power BI environment where we can start building, analyzing, and doing a whole lot of operations, right? So you can see there's plenty of buttons here for you to work with. There's the visualization buttons as well, or options that you can work with. So first things first, on the right-hand side, we have our data. So this is the data pane. We also have the visualizations. So let's proceed and see what we can get. We're going to click on the drop down here to expand this particular data. So when you click on the drop down to expand that data, you can then see all your columns. Now for some of those columns, there are now new properties that have been attributed to them. For example, the date, you can see it has a calendar icon. The satisfaction, the speed of answer, they both have a summation sign in front of them. So this tells us that these are purely numerical data and have been summarized, which means if we work with them, we will be having summarized data already. Now here's what we're going to do. Are we all good? Please confirm that we're all good. Everyone, please confirm we're all good. Let's see here. Just going to check real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me see. So we have about 6 persons. All good to go. All good to go. Awesome. Awesome. How did you load the data? So at the top left, right, there's a close and apply button on your home tab. So when you go to your home tab, there's a close and apply. Right, there's a close and apply, and then you just click on that. Okay. So let's proceed. Now, this is the stage where we start analyzing the data, right? So it's always important. One of the first things that I advise is to first get the statistics of your data, understand your data. How many is this? What is the number of this? What is the total this? What is the total that? What is the average this? What is the average that, right? So we want to get the descriptive statistics of that. Now, here's what we're going to do in this case. We want to find out how many calls were placed in total. How many calls were placed in total? So we're going to get the call ID, and this is what it looks like for us. We're going to use a card visual. You'd find a card visual under your visualizations pane. Please let me know if you find a card visual. It has a 1, 2, 3 on it. So once you do that, this is what you'd be getting on your end, right? ID 001, if you use a card visual, this is what you'd be getting. So what can we do about it? We'll come here under the fields. We're going to try something else that works perfectly well, right? But we just need to try this out. So under the fields, we have the first call ID. So you can click on the drop down and scroll down to count the distinct. So this tells us that there are 5,001 calls that entered this particular, or total calls that were placed, right? Whether it was responded to or was not responded to. Are we good? Let's see. Okay. All right. So take it again. All right. So I'm just going to take that again. I want us to do something else that works even more better, but let's take that again. Now we're going to select the call ID first off, right? And then locate the card visual. Use a card visual, and then you can scroll down and use the count distinct. Now the count distinct tells you that Removing duplicated values. These are the number of calls that you have. Let me see what we have here. So count. Okay, so there's definitely a problem in the data. Please give me a moment real quick. There's definitely a problem. Just going to look through to see what we have here. So 433, 453, 4869. Okay, so there's a problem somewhere. I think this is scattered actually. So there's a problem somewhere. 5001 rows. Right. So what we should be getting is, let me see if we can sort in ascending. Okay. All right. So awesome. So this is the problem. We have some blank spaces here. So that's the problem. So we have some blank spaces, hence why we're having that. Awesome. So we have some blank spaces. So what we're going to do right now is to quickly sort that part, and then we can proceed. Just going to undo this. So let's go back to our work. Sort. So let's go back to home. And we see the transform data, right? Everyone, please let's quickly do this. So we see the transform data, right? When you get the transform data, you click on it, and it should take you back to your Power Query editor. So transform data in your home tab, you click on it, and it should take you back to your Power Query editor. All right. So once you're back into your Power Query editor, what we can do here is come here and remove empty. So I'm going to try that out and see the effects. All right, so there we have it. So right click, there's no need to right click instead. You click on the filter button here, and then you remove empty, right? So this tells us that there was a blank, right? And we don't have null as well. So you click on this filter button here, and you remove empty. Once you have that done, you can close, go back to your home and close and apply. So this way we now have 5,000 valid data. Are we all following? All right, awesome. So we've now been able to properly correct whatever issue that would have cost us, right? So it's important to always understand your data properly. Now let's start getting our insights. So like I mentioned, I'm trying to, by all means, avoid us doing this, but there's almost no way we can avoid that. Please take it again from the transform data. Okay, so transform data, you go to your data, right? This is your Power Query editor. Then you click on the drop down for your call ID column, and you remove empty. So when you remove empty, it's going to clear off the blanks that you had. Right. Once you have that done, then you can close and apply. It takes you then back to your Power BI and refreshes your data to now take effect, the new action that you performed. So let's proceed. Now, there are some few things I wanted us to avoid, but I believe we'll have to do that because they are necessary for the analysis. So let's just have it done. We're going to create what is called a measure. We'll create what is called a measure, right? Which is basically going to help us get the most out of this. Now, once we create our measures, we can then start looking at every other thing that we need. All right, cool. Now, can everyone please confirm they can see measure here? Can everyone please confirm they can see measure? If you can see the new measure, that's good. If you cannot, please right click on your call center, and then you should see new measure. Okay, so let's see. Okay, awesome. So either you work with the new measure here, or you guys click on your call center and get new measure. Now, once we get this, we're going to call it total calls, right? So we'd say total calls, replace whatever was written there to total calls is equal to count the call ID. So we're going to say total calls is equal to, we're going to use the count function to count the total calls. So which is going to count the call ID. And then once it counts the call ID, so let me say some things that would help us better, right? So this is not complex. The count function would help us perform a count on that particular column, right? So use the count. Once you have it here listed, you can click on it. It tells you the count function requires a column name. So we need to put in a column name. What it does is that it counts the numbers of rows in that particular column. So this is our column here, call ID, right? So we'll click on call ID, we'll close the bracket, and there we have our total calls. Does that make any sense? Now, once you're good, you can hit on the enter key or the commit button, right? And you should see that you have a measure created. The measure now is called total calls. So this is a summarization of the total calls that has been counted, right? So this way, we can then be able to work better with it. Please select the checkbox for total calls and then use your card visual. Now we can see how much better it is compared to using the call IDs itself, right? So we can just reduce the size here. I think we can bring it somewhere around here and just move it about however you want. Can move it about. So we can just keep it somewhere around here. Total cost of 5,000. So next, all right, so we're all good. So next we can get the average speed of answer. So let's also get the average speed of answer. Now the average speed of answer is already summarized, so we can just get that and use a card visual as well. So we have the sum of speed of answer in seconds. Now instead of keeping it as sum of speed of answer in seconds, we can just get the average instead. Now we might be tempted to write another measure, but that won't be necessary. So we just come here in the fields, click on the drop down here, and we can change it to average. So change it from sum to average. And the average speed of answer in seconds is about 67.52 seconds. So apparently it takes any agent about 67.5 seconds to respond to a call on an average. I believe we're good. So we can also do the same thing likewise for speed of answer. Okay, so yeah, for satisfaction rating rather. So this is because we're trying to get the statistics of our data. Select the checkbox for satisfaction rating and then use the card visual. Now, if you're having issues with your values changing, maybe for example, you did for calls and then when you did for speed of answer, your values kept on changing. What you need to do is that you have this, you can see there's a border around it showing that it is active. You need to click on the white space outside of that to deactivate that. So it's no longer active, and then you can select on the next one. Are we all following? So we can keep this down here, and then we can also make it the average by coming here and making it the average. So we now have the total calls, the average speed of answers, and then the average satisfaction rating. Now let's look at, I believe we're good. Let me see what we have in the charts. Okay, so we're good. Now let's start understanding what is the proportion of calls that were answered and calls that were not answered, right? So let's look at that. So we have the total calls here, and then by response. So total calls by response, this is what we have. Answered calls were 4054. That's 4,054 calls were answered. And unanswered calls were 946. So this gives us an insight into this. Now we can decide to use a better visual for it by coming here and using maybe a pie chart or a donut chart. So I'm more of a donut person, so we can use a donut chart for this. So by the time I click on this focus mode here, it's going to magnify this for me. And then I can be able to see this is 946 calls were unanswered and 4054 calls were answered, making it an 81% of the total calls, right? So 81% of the total calls were answered. I believe that makes sense. Right, so we can take the same for resolved calls. So select your total calls first, and then also select your resolution. So this is it. So we have these. Let's just keep this on this, and let's look at this. So we have this for resolution, right? I think I can also make use of the donut chart. So these are the calls that were resolved and calls that were not resolved. So we can see that a total of 3,646 calls out of the 5,000 calls were resolved. We can also see that 1,354 calls were left unresolved, making it 27% of the calls that were not resolved. I believe this is beginning to make sense. Let me see what we have here. All right. Okay, so cool. So we're having a rough work here, and we would come back to look at how we can make it better. So if this were to be a data that's related to your field, right, you'd by this time be getting your insights already. All right, so let's proceed. Now, next, let's also understand how the resolved calls or the calls were answered over the months, right? So over the months, what was the response like for the calls? So we'll get the total calls here. So I can just expand it for now. The total calls, and then I can also get the date. So I'm selecting total calls, and then I select the date. So this is what it gives me. Right, so I can see over the days, right, by each quarter and by the months, how the calls were answered. So we can see for each of the quarters, this should be only for first quarter. So yeah. Now on this axis, we have the x-axis, right, which contains the date information. So we can X out the year because we want to focus on the month. So X out the year, X out the quarter, and we can also X out the day. So this is what it then leaves us. So it leaves us with the months. So we can see that this particular data only covers for January, February, March of the year 2021. All right, so we can see the calls that were answered for each month. 1772 calls were answered each month, for the month of January rather. 16, okay, so this is the total calls rather for this month. We've not been able to check whether the calls were answered or not. So February we had this and this. So this means that the January had the most calls that came in. Please, what visual was used for the calls by date? So we did not create a visual ourselves. When we selected it, it's created a clustered column chart for us, which is what we're currently working with. Right. Now, what we're going to do next is we want to find out the calls that were answered and calls that were not answered, right? So we're going to drag the response. We'll scroll down here. So we'll drag the response from here and drag it into the legend. We'll drag the response from here into the legend, right? That's beneath the y-axis. Once you do that, you can then see January had answered calls 1455 and unanswered calls were 313. February had 1298 answered calls, 318 unanswered calls. March also had 1301 answered calls and 311 unanswered calls. So we're now able to see the statistics of calls, right, that were answered or unanswered for each month. Now, to make this even better, I'm going to change the chart. I'm going to change it to stacked. So this works better for me. We're able to see these were the unanswered calls denoted by this color in legend, and these were the answered calls, the unanswered calls and the answered calls, unanswered calls and the answered calls. Are we all good? So I'm going to bring these down and try to keep it somewhere around here. So we're just going to create a simple dashboard that will be able to give us this information. Can you please reiterate? Okay, so let's take that again. I'm going to take that from scratch, right? So we have about 45 minutes left. So I'm going to take that from scratch. First off, total calls. Then next, we have our date. Then we removed from our date here, we removed the day, the year, and the quarter. So leaving us with just the month, right? Then next we did was to scroll down here. After the y-axis, we had the response brought in. So we brought the response to our legend, and then this was what we had. But we wanted to make it even more better visually. So we changed the visual to a stacked column chart. So this way we have it here, and we can view it like this. I believe that answered your question. All right, awesome. So now we have this, right? Next we can also do is we're just going to create like a simple dashboard like I mentioned. So next we're going to do is to get the agent statistics, right? Let's see how many calls each agent handled, their average satisfaction rating, the speed of answer, and the likes, right? So let's have a good look at that. Now, what we're going to do is to select the agent next. I think this will most likely be our last visual, just to keep it simple. So we select the agent. So next, we're also going to select the, let's see. So we're going to select the total calls for each agent, right? And we're also going to check the satisfaction rating of each agent and the speed of answer for each agent, right? So we can also decide to, find out how many calls were answered for each agent, how many calls were resolved for each agent. But that would require us performing some bit of calculations, which I want us to avoid at this point in time. So in this case, we have this as the agent statistics for now. Now, what we can do would be to change it from sum into average, right? So we can just come here make it an average. You can also come here and make it an average. Let me know if you get that. Go back to report, and I will just bring it downwards. Yeah. So I have these, and this is it. Are we good? Okay, let me see what we have in the chats. Awesome. So we're all good. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so now we've been able to get some insights into our data, right? So this is what it looks like for us so far. Just going to expand these a bit to make them bolder. So this is what our work looks like so far, right? And we can bring in filters that we're going to use, trying to get a table. Okay, so you don't need to stress it much. Just select add agent first off, then also select your total calls, then select the satisfaction rating, then also select your speed of answers, and then you should have the table. All right. This and this and down into bring this here. Also going to bring this here. Okay, so I believe we're good in that regards. Yep. So now what we want to look at is to be able to understand deeper some of our data. For example, we can come here and say, for each agent, how have the calls been? For each topic, how have the agents performed, or how have the calls been for each topic, right? So let's do something. Let me try to see what works best. Okay, so we have 30 minutes left. We can be able to have that done in 30 minutes. So yep. So let's come here, select the agent. Hi, Susan.
Yeah, so we don't really have 30 minutes. We kind of have 20 minutes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to
Yeah.
go to that. All right, awesome. So what we're going to do is to get the agent, right? And then we can use a slicer for that. So we have a slicer around here. I'm going to explain what that actually means, right? Now, having a slicer is kind of like a filter, or in an advanced way, that lets you be able to get even more insights into your data. For example, we have all the agents listed here, right? Now, I want to see the insights for each agent. Let's start off with Becky. Becky had a total of 631 calls, of which 114 of them were answered, and 517 of them were not answered. Now, of all the calls that were answered, she had about 169 of them unresolved and 462 of them unresolved. Over the months, we can see how Becky's calls have performed. 177 in January answered and 39 unanswered. Right, so this gives us even more insights into these particular agents. Likewise, we can also be able to look at, based on the topics, select these and look for the slicer visual. So based on the topics, how have we progressed? For admin related topics, 976 of them. How about for Becky? 121 calls that were admin related, and she was able to answer 100 of those calls, was also able to resolve 90 of those calls, right? So we can see how we're getting more insights into this. Now we can also decide to get the dates here. We can just do like a slicer as well. Let's see. All right. So we have this here. So I think I'm just going to quickly rush through, right? So we can be able to still be right on time. Now, what I'm going to do next is, of course, we'll bring in other ones, but what I'm going to do next is to bring in a text box. So we have a text box here, and then we can type in it. I'm just going to call it, just like 20, call center, call center performance analysis. Okay, so call center performance analysis. Right. So we can have these, and I'm just gonna call it, give it like 28. Make it bold if I want. And yep. So I think I'll just take this here. So I think if it's fine with everyone, I'm just going to run through this, right? There's some stuff that I want us to also talk about, but we currently don't have the time. So I'm just going to run through this. So I have this here agents, right, which is a slicer. So I'm going to come here, change this from being a vertical list into a drop down, right? So this way, I only get to see the list of agents when I click on this. And yep. So we can have this as well. Come here and change it into a drop down as well. And then we can have maybe any other one as well. Maybe the date. We have the slicer as well. And we can bring it here. So we can call that and make it a drop down as well. Right. So this way I get to be able to work with this, right? And then, so this is what we have basically. Now there are some few things that we might be able to do, right? Which would help us better get this proper. So I'm going to quickly run through that. Run through that. So I'll call these. So I'm just going to come here and do some inserts. Okay, so let me just do this. We're going to bring in these icons, and we can bring these open. So I have my icons, and I can call these, bring this here. So this is like my calls, 5,000 calls, and I can bring in my other one. So I can bring in this and put it somewhere around here. Right, so what we're doing now is to help us be able to make it a much more better report. So we can do this. So satisfaction rating, so we have something like this, right? And then we can also bring in these, which would be for this here. Right, so lastly, we can bring in this, which is going to be for our date. Right. So we can be able to do stuff like this, and then you can see how we are making progress with what we have currently. Let's see. And next, of course, this is beginning to make sense. We can just go on to our view, right, and pick a particular theme. Maybe this, we can decide to work with this. And this is what we have so far. So we don't have to like struggle with picking out colors for our work. Maybe we can come here, pick this, and we're just going to try out something that works pretty much fine. Okay, so this looks good, right? So we can work with this. This looks good and better. So we can work with it. So we're almost done, right? Any other thing that we need to do would just be to be able to make our work presentable, right? Other than that, we're done with this particular section. I'm sorry that I have to run through, right? But yep, let's just keep this around here. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. Come here as well on format your visual and turn off the category labels. Right, so we can decide to keep that on if we want. I think we can just keep it on. So what we're going to do is go to the general and go to effects and turn off the background. So this way, this is what we have. Then whatever title that we have in the category label, we can make it maybe bold and give it a proper color or maybe dark shade. Right, so yep, that works. So we can likewise do the same here. Make it bold and give it a proper color. Then come here to general, turn off the background. We can do the same thing here, turn off the background. And we can make sure that this background, we can make sure that it's bold and has a proper visible color. Right, so likewise for these other ones, we can as well turn off the backgrounds. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we'll come back to that guy. So we can turn off the background here as well. And then we can also do likewise for these. And likewise for this, we can turn off their backgrounds, right? So if this color is not okay or giving us issues, we can do some other things that would help us better. Well, I don't think we have that time right now, so we can just maintain this. And yeah. So this is what we have basically at the moment. I think for this, I'm just going to have it sorted from here. And I'm going to change this color from this to something else. Works. Okay, more better. So I'm going to change it here as well to the same thing. I think I'm going to also do the same here. So I'm so sorry that I have to rush through, right, because of time. I'm not sure why this is not responding. Okay. So answered and answered. So we have answered. Right. Just going to change it and give it that. Right. So this is what we have so far. Of course, for this as well, we can decide to work on it even better, right, and make it more proper. Just going to turn that to this and close these. Right, so there are quite a lot of things that we might need to do, right? I think I'll just try different color entirely. So let's see. Okay, so looks good. This looks more better. All right, cool. So this looks more better. So this is what we have here. And then we have our agents and we have our calls. This is our call center, right? And then we can be able to use all of these slicers to drill down further. Oh, so we want to find out for Becky, we want to find out over the months, over the years, and then we can be able to do all of those, right? So there's just a lot that we can be able to do using this particular data or what we've done. Now, lastly, we can also bring in what is called the key influencer, right? So this is an AI visual that allows you to be able to find out the correlation between two or more variables. So I think this is going to be the last part, right? So we have the key influencer. I'm just going to bring it here. And then this key influencer is going to go even more deeper and tell you why or why should a call, or what influences a particular call to either be answered or not answered. Now, of course, we understand for calls that were resolved, right? Calls that were unresolved, they were calls that were not answered. So we can decide to even find out more. Why, what determines a call being answered? So we can decide to explain it by maybe the agent. So explained by the agent. So here it's going to tell us, okay, so nothing for agent. So let's look at the topic. No influencers found. So let me try to bring this again. I'm going to bring this. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's giving that, but maybe we can try for the resolved, right? So analyze what influences a call to be resolved by agents. Okay, so I'm not sure why exactly it's not bringing that out. I think there's probably something wrong with my data. So let's look at unresolved. So no influencers. Okay, so not sure why exactly it's not bringing this. However, I wanted us to have like a clear understanding of this, because this would basically be able to tell us, oh, if a call is being answered by an agent, maybe Becky, there's this possibility, right? Or if a call goes through Becky's desk, there's this possibility or percentage of possibility that it doesn't get answered. If a call seems to be maybe admin related and it goes to Jim's desk, there's these chances of high possibility that it doesn't get answered. So this way, you're then able to understand what happens, what agent is best to handle certain topics, how you can also be able to improve their response time, how you can also be able to improve their satisfaction. For example, what agent has the least satisfaction? You can be able to look at that. In this case, we have 65, which is Becky. So how can we improve Becky's performance? I think we'll just have this deleted from here. Right. So far, this is what we've been able to build. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, right? Hence why I'm so sorry to know. Yeah. So we don't have that much time, but basically we've been able to provide a dashboard that the management can then be able to use in making their decisions. So far, there were 5,000 total calls with an average speed of response at 67.352 and an average satisfaction rate of 3.40, which seems really, really bad, right? And then there is the total calls by response. We have them by resolution, by over the months, and how each of the agents have performed, right? So we have all of these here, and then we can be able to gain more insights and make informed decisions from all of these, right? So I believe so far we had a good understanding of this. Fortunately, we just did not have so much time to look into it. But then this is what dashboarding looks like, what generating insights from your data looks like, and putting it in a visual way that it is easily interpretable by anyone and everyone. So you don't need anyone to start going through the Excel spreadsheets to understand this, right? So they basically have a dashboard and can be able to quickly make their decisions from viewing this, right? So yep, that's about that from me. Okay, hi Suzanne, I think you can take over.
Yeah. So I don't know. So how many persons here now know that they are somewhat a data analyst? You've created, so if you were successful in creating your first dashboard, please can we just signify? So thank you very much, Samuel. Samuel is a good tutor. Sorry, I had to jump in and he was rushing at the end, but that's not going to be the case. We'll still have more time, more opportunities to do this in detail. This is just a sneak peek towards what is coming up. So at our school, we have the School of Data, but we realize that most professionals do not have So let me just give you a rundown. So at all school, what we normally have, what we used to have is a diploma course, is a 1 year diploma course. So with that 1 year diploma course, we realized that most professionals, either because of time and because of what they want to learn at a very short time space, did not really fit in for some professionals, irrespective of the field. So we had data of people saying they need a shorter course. So we said, okay, let's test run it. And then we've had other several short courses, and we saw that that was okay. Now, this is data and AI course, right? And we had Samuel and Maurice coming to give us basically for free. We are not paying them, like they volunteered to do this. It is for free. However, there is the advanced version of this one where we'll take you. A lot of you were just working on the dashboarding, you're working on the tools. We did not have the time to explain to you what each of the tools you find on your Power BI query. We did not have time to explain what that meant, right? We we will at this point in time introduce our program, our data and AI program, is a 10 weeks course, basically for professionals. And I will allow Tommy do the numbers, talking about the numbers. So basically, we have the course going for. Tommy will talk about the numbers. Let me not talk about the numbers. Tommy, are you here?
Yes, I am. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see your screen.
I'm trying to present fully. Sorry,
Okay,
just
just the slideshow.
um
Just click on slideshow.
yes. I'm looking for it.
See here, close to
Okay,
share. Just
okay.
yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much, Susan, for doing an introduction. We have today we've been able to establish right from Morris's session down to Samuel's session that knowing or leveraging data is very important for every professional, right? Across different industries, across different roles, the healthcare industry, the education industry, everywhere. To remain relevant in any role or in any job you are in right now, you have to be able to leverage data. And beyond even remaining relevant, also to enjoy the work you do. I cannot imagine going to work every day and then I'm just being told, oh, do this, oh, do that. There's nothing really exciting about that. But when I know, or how I know the importance of my role is with the data available to me, right? So for instance, in the development of this program, it was exciting to know that, okay, data professionals across different fields need access to data or need to understand how to use data at their disposal, right? Even as a business operations person, a CX person, even a software engineer, a product manager, you get to realize that, oh, to build sustainable products or to make smarter decisions at your workplace or to just contribute significantly to wherever you are, wherever whatever space you are, to be innovative, you need to be able to understand what your data presents to you. And beyond analyzing it, you should be able to use it to make informed decisions or act smarter. And then the part of AI now comes in where even as a non-technical professional, you don't really need to do so much scot work, right? We have tools like Power BI that look at how, someone was able to show us how we present our data. As a business operations person, if I am able to convert my sales data or my to something like that can be presented to management, and I'm able to say, okay, from this insight, this is how we can boost our processes, our sales processes, or our business processes. It makes more sense to be able to make a case that way than just making a case based on, um gut feeling or wishful thinking. You are even respected more, or your decision is taken more seriously because you are able to present facts, you're able to present data. And it's important that we all understand how crucial this is for whatever role we are in. And we decided to develop a program for professionals. Now, this program isn't something that, oh, you're just coming to take videos, watch videos, and then, oh, you just pass time. No, this 10-week program is very immersive. So beyond just even the live sessions which you would take, with our excellent, we've brought excellent hands on board, excellent people, and it would be it would make you happy to know that, oh, Samuel is one of those very, very intelligent people that we brought on board to take this program. And we have so many other, or a couple of other people who would be on board to ensure that we're giving you the best experience. For professionals like you, we are not subjecting you to go and learn on your own. We're going to have a lot of interactive sessions. Now imagine you're a healthcare professional, you will be grouped with other healthcare professionals. If you're a banker, you'll be grouped with other bankers to learn, work on real case studies, and just have a great time for a period of 10 weeks, right? And then you would be certified afterwards. It's going to be very, very intensive, but still flexible enough to shoot in, or to fit into your schedule as a professional. And we have decided to discount this program just for attendees. So I'm very glad that you waited till the end. We have discounted this program for attendees of this session, of this webinar, participants of this masterclass. And you can either scan the QR code, you fill out the form, and then proceed to make payment, or you take this bit.ly link, bit.ly/DAI, that's data and AI discounted. So that is the form you'd fill out, and you'll be able to see the uh form to fill. Then after you fill the form, you'll be able to see the payment link where you can just pay at once, and then from then on you receive communications leading up to the program. Is starting at the end of February. And if any other decision maker, any other leader in your space that can be a huge partaker of this, or if you need us to convince your learning and development professionals or your HR professionals to see the value in this, and offer it to more than just one person within your organization, more than just you within your organization, then it's something that you could definitely reach out to me. My email address is Tomilola, Tomilola, at oldschoolafrica.com, oldschoolafrica.com. So that's my email address. You can always reach out to me. But this is the form. Please make sure you fill it, and then you'll be able to make payment immediately after, right? Subsequently, more information on the program will be shared, the website will be shared, and so on and so forth. But this is something we do not want you to miss out on. And this discount would be, it's a 50% discount on the original price, which came up to $400, but we've slashed it by 50%. That's really huge, and we're keeping it on from now till tomorrow midnight. Susan, I stand corrected, please let me know. But that is the extent we are willing to go for you, so that you are a part of this. And we're doing this because the program starts soon, so we don't want you to miss out on this opportunity at all. So that's it. If you have any questions, I would be in the comment section, just looking out. If you have any questions on the program in terms of delivery. Okay, so in terms of delivery, it's fully virtual, right? Maybe we can throw in a surprise, maybe for those in Nigeria and in Rwanda. We may throw in a surprise that, okay, we can meet physically sometime, right? But there aren't any promises on that. But it's fully a virtual program, and we are ready to give you the best. So beyond even just learning, there is the networking side of it. That's why we like to put it to you as an exclusive program. There's a networking side to it, where you get to meet other professionals. Then you also get mentorship. You get to speak with amazing, you can imagine the amazing people we brought on board for this masterclass. Then you can only imagine the people that will be part of the program. So it's something that you don't want to miss out on. You get to meet other professionals in your industry and across other industries. You get to work on projects, real life projects in other industries and in your industry as well, and contribute significantly to change across different fields. So that's about it for me.
Right.
Susan.
Thank you very much to me. So I'm not going to say much. We have just barely 3 minutes to go. Other than to say thank you to Maurice, and thank you to, you can follow
Yeah.
them on LinkedIn, right? Thank you to Maurice, and thank you to Samuel for volunteering to teach this session. So Tommy has said it's $200. Is it $200 or
Yes.
200,000?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, more details about payment, you can always reach out to Tommy, or you can ask the questions on WhatsApp. I will do well to follow you through. Thank you for everyone that today is Saturday, right? For joining. Hopefully, I'm looking at us having several masterclass. Let's say maybe one quarterly going forward, right? Just so that we give back to the society. I think one or two person must have learned one or two things here. So thank you so very much to everyone that has joined. We are calling this session, we are bringing it to a close. Really, another class is about to start right now, so we don't want to be thrown out by ourselves. So bye bye. I'm going to end the session. Bye everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll post the link also on WhatsApp. So thank you to everybody that joined us. Thank you, Maurice, and
Thank you, Morris. Thank
thank
you,
you to
Samuel.
Samuel. Bye
Thank
guys. Bye
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.